Kevin, thanks for being here.
I'm so excited.
Yeah, you were
Yeah.
fantastic last night.
Well, thank you so much. It was such a fun room, and it was just very relaxed. And we had the shag carpet going for us on the stage. Anytime I can take a break from tour and come out west and be in Palm Springs or Indian Wells, to be exact, is a win
Right.
for me.
And there's so many people here seeking answers, right? I mean, workplace is kind of a fuzzy topic right now.
You know, what I love is that any event, good or bad, creates new opportunities. And the pandemic, while it had so many negative effects, mostly negative effects, it also spurred different industries and different challenges and the evolution of the workplace. And like I said last night, it had an effect on me, and it changed the way songwriting is done. And while it's gone back, now that we're somewhat normal, it's gone back to a lot of face-to-face. A lot of people prefer the Zoom. They like the hybrid workplace.
Yeah, there was. I want to get into collaboration because you made
Sure.
some interesting things there, but I also want to talk about the well. You talked about that we all have a well. Explain
Yes.
this well.
Creativity to me, I like to think of it as this kind of finite well you have within you, and it holds all the experiences of your life from growing up, your relationship with your parents, your friends, everything. And so when you're creating, when you're working, you draw on that well of inspiration, and I just think it's critical to continue. People don't think about it enough to continue filling the well with inspiration. It has to be an overt act to go out and be inspired, because look, it's not a coincidence that a lot of musicians and bands you love have that one good first album and the rest are not good, because they don't continue that, seeking. They have their whole life to make the first album. And then a lot of people if you ask most people what their favorite music is, invariably it'll be bands they listen to in college.
Yeah.
And then also education. It happened in college, and look at their bookshelf. Most of the books on their bookshelves are ones they had to buy in college, So,
That's funny.
I just realized, wow, if I'm still in this business, music and songwriting, I've got to just go out and overtly go and refill the well with inspiration. It's music, it's books, it's always seeking, and the people that I look up to and maybe it wasn't as conscious, but they actually do that.
Yeah, I love how when you start, at least for the first time, I feel like I'm understanding where it's coming from, right? I think that's
Yeah.
one of the challenges with creativity is like we all want to get better at it.
Yeah.
We know it's important, but how do you do that? How do you practice something like creativity? But the idea that it's not necessarily the act of creativity itself, but
Well,
it's where does it come?
Yeah, well, we all, like I said last night, creativity. I had a friend's mom who always just said, "Oh, I'm not creative," and I'm like, "Oh, it just drove me crazy." She said that because I believe everyone is creative. It can be as something as like writing a song. People think of, that's a creative act, but it's also just doing, you guys setting this up, setting the table up, and it comes, the eye to put this table together, came from somewhere. It didn't just happen. So as you grow older and you continue, you have to continue to replenish that inspiration.
Awesome. I love the
Did I
well.
ramble a little?
No.
The coffee is just starting to work here in Indian Wells.
There was a funny quote too about ego that came from somebody in your life.
What?
There was a funny quote about ego that came
Ego.
from somebody in your life and the role of ego, right,
yeah.
in growing yourself and keeping yourself in check.
A guy named Shane Sawyer, who is this very successful Nashville songwriter, and he looks like Sam Elliott. He's just kind of this sage in Nashville. And he says, Kevin, my ego is not my amigo. And in this very cool, not Tombstone, but Yellowstone kind of voice. By the way, I went to college with Taylor Sheridan, who did Yellowstone and stuff. So we become
wow.
friends, and Sam, and actually the real Sam Elliott. But the ego, time and time again, is the thing that gets in the way of getting better, because we always, when your ego gets in the way, it's like, hey man, I don't need to learn anymore. I don't need to embrace the success of my competition. I don't need to seek out why other people are doing something that's great. They're not as good as me. But when you let the ego go away and you try to put the natural tendency for it to kind of guide you, that's when things get really great. And you're in your life, you're doing your career, you're at WorkSpaces, a meeting like this, you're successful. You're good. You're here for a reason. Now learn and get better.
I love that. I love the quote, especially in that
My
context.
ego is not my amigo. It's so good.
It's so good.
and this guy saying it was just perfect. I was like, oh my God, I need a camera.
It's sticky. I'll give you
It
that
is.
for sure. It's very sticky. All right, well, let's talk about collaboration, because so much of what you do involves that. I mean, music is a team sport, and the nature of team has changed. So what's changed in the way you do your work?
Well, in the speech, I just talk about how I was a kind of an army of one as far as songwriting goes. I wrote all the songs in the early days with Better Than Ezra, and then that kind of quit working. And look, there are exceptions. There are people who just only write their own songs, Dylan and stuff like that. But actually, if you look at some of the great Dylan songs and stuff, there's collaborations. And so I just realized, like, wow, I need to bring other voices in, other skill sets in to the way I make songs. And I started doing that by bringing people in. Look, I'm a top line melody person. I'm the person who sings that melody that's hooky or sticky, as they say. So I'll bring in somebody who is a great lyricist or a great producer who's going to do beats and stuff to make it a compelling mix. Because not only do you have to write a great song these days, but you also have to write a great track. And everybody, if you look at songs that are on the radio, whatever genre it is you like, whether it's Post Malone or Lizzo or Chris Stapleton, you can actually do this in Spotify or any of the streamers. You can click on those 3 dots next to the song, and it will tell you the credits, who wrote the song. 9 times out of 10, it's 3, 4, 5. I mean, a Beyonce song has 20 co-writers on it. That's what the collaboration looks like. So you're competing not only in music, but in workplace strategies, in business. It is a group effort. So you better get on the train and start collaborating. Check the ego, and the great thing is, like I say, by collaborating, while I was sharing credit, and ownership, I was writing so many more songs that were just so much better, and so many more chances for those collaborators to go out and get the song placed, get the idea, bought, that it paid just way more dividends down the road to collaborate.
That's awesome. Well, I love your take on that. Is there anything else, when you think of workplace, is there anything else that we might lean into or explore here with guests while I have a chance to interview them? What questions would you ask them?
What is the hesitancy in the hybrid workplace?
Ooh.
What is the worry? It's funny, my wife works for a global company. She just started working there. And when she started working there, one of her things was like, I'm only coming in the office 3 days a week, and because I think everybody found, and we were forced into it, that the worry was like, if people are at home working, they ain't working, but they actually did.
Yeah.
And, when people got face-to-face on Zooms or Teams or whatever, it wasn't chit-chat. Let's get to it. Let's get it done. I see still, though, there's a mindset, and it's usually with the older executives that you got to get in the office. And I've heard some compelling arguments by I love Scott Galloway. Scott Pivot, Scott Galloway, Professor G, saying that it is important to have younger employees to get in to be inoculated with the kind of the ethos of the company and the spirit of the company. I can see that. So I do think it's a hybrid workplace. So I would say, what are your concerns? What are your hesitancies that are holding you back from really embracing? What are your fears, and are they well founded or are they a myth?